and to stand up against the whole idea of birthright citizenship. This is a really interesting, that was one of the things that in the past, even people who were really concerned about citizenship in this country didn't think they could really get anywhere with it. The idea of anchor babies, which, by the way, that's not politically correct to say. You're not allowed to say anchor babies. But there are people who do this, not just people from south of our border. I know a lot of Russian people who have done this, come to the United States on a short visa, had a child here. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and say, this may not be in our best interest anymore.
Hey, good morning, Jake. No, it absolutely does. It takes courage to speak out when nobody wants to say it. So like you're saying, you can't say anchor babies. So that means we should say anchor babies. Anything that you shouldn't say, we should say more of. So look, this is why our main tagline for courage is a habit, besides make courage your habit, is embrace exclusion. You have it right here. For those watching, you have it right here. Yeah. And we always encourage, especially if you have young children, but any American, you have to reject inclusion. Inclusion was always a Trojan horse, and it's been a Trojan horse for a long, long time. And this is where a lot of our problems in this country is because we have been inclusive and to our detriment. Because it's a good life is about embracing exclusion, because it means drawing good boundaries, whether it's children or border. I mean, look, like I said last time I was here, look, you know what? We're friends, but I can't just walk into your Florida studio right now and just sit down with you without being invited. You have to embrace exclusion. And I love seeing that Americans are finally done. They're finally seeing the damage of embracing exclusion or embracing inclusion. And now they're embracing exclusion, and we're finally drawing boundaries and holding a high standard. If America's great, anything that's great needs a high standard. And we've got to go back to embracing that.
High standard also to me equals responsibility. One of the things that's really interesting about the Bible, for those of you who want to read it for the first time or read it with a different eye, there are no rights given to anyone in the Bible, only responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And I think that we should be starting to couch citizenship in this country, even the people who are born here as children of citizens, it doesn't matter whether you're an immigrant, as a responsibility, and less of here's what you get. Here's what you get. Here's what you have a right to. Well, who's giving you those rights? It doesn't come out of thin air. Speaking of children and people, what they're learning in school, Alvin, there's a new poll by my friend Scott Rasmussen, and it has a lot of people scratching their heads. Basically, according to his poll, there are a large number of people in America who at the same time say they support capitalism and socialism. Actually, a majority, or at least a plurality of the people who answered the poll said they support both. I'm sorry, I think this is a failure of education, whether it's in the classroom or adults just reading a little bit more nonfiction and maybe figuring out that capitalism and socialism, there's plenty of charity and compassion that is, I think, inherent in capitalism. You have to have that, otherwise people aren't going to want to go and buy from you. But sure. Capitalism and socialism don't mix, Alvin, and I don't understand why people haven't learned that in school.
Well, it's because in school, much to most people's the myths that people still think, it is not a failure of the K through 12 education system. It's a success, because that is exactly what they want your kids to think about. And so people always think, oh, it's a failure. It's not a failure. This is the purpose of the K through 12 system. The reason why that poll is the way it is because they romanticize socialism. Because they're teaching children that, especially if you're a white child, then you're an oppressor, that you owe everybody forevermore. And if you're a black or you're brown or you're not white, then you're forever, you need the government to help you. Otherwise, you can't succeed. So socialism is romanticized through the education system. And this is why you increasingly see that with young people. And so they just don't understand what that is. And people always say we whitewash history. A lot of the critical race theorists, they'll say we were whitewashing history in schools. No. We are redwashing history. This is why we don't know who Mao is. We don't know what communism is. And look, if you keep telling young people that their life sucks, the skin color matters, that the climate change is going to end the world in 10 years. Hey, man, you know what? Free stuff sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I wonder why anxiety is the #1 epidemic for young people in America. They've been in schools telling them the world's going to end, that everyone around them is a potential racist and hater. It's amazing we haven't had an even worse anxiety problem with our young people. But